Another thing about shedding is, look, people, we all, I just wrote a whole post about this.
Yeah,
Everybody sheds. You
that's
lose
right.
50 to 100 strands of hair a day. And the extensions is no different. It's going to shed as well because it's getting pulled on with your natural hair. It's getting brushed. It's getting washed. It's going through all the environmental stuff. The other thing that we don't think about, I was on a phone call earlier this week, and the stylist was asking me, she says, oh, how many times can you get extensions before you have to tell the client they have to take a break?
Never.
And I'm like, you know what was happening? The stylist was being lazy. They kept, instead of taking the extensions down and putting them back in again, they just kept pushing them up, pushing them up, pushing them up, pushing them up. Now, the way I explain it is, if all four of my fingers are the strands of your hair that you've attached the extension to, right? If one of those four hairs shed, then wait, which finger do I have to bring down? Then another.
Yeah, you just can't leave the middle finger
right.
up.
Then another one sheds. Then another one sheds. Now everything is holding on to that one little strand. Yeah, that's gonna snap. You're gonna have breakage, and this is why people freak out and they're like, "Oh, we have to take a break because the hair sheds too much and the natural hair sheds too much." If you're doing them correctly,
let me attack that same subject because from a different angle. I talk about it too, but I use a little bit bigger numbers because that's a good visual doing that. I'd like to get down to the end where you get.
I always end up with the one finger, yeah.
Right, and it makes sense because you are screwed if you do it that way. And right, so every extension technique holds on to a grouping of hairs, and let's say there's 50 hairs in that little grouping that you're holding on to, like you're saying. There's all these hairs, and the average person is shedding 30 to 100 hairs a day. So sure, you might even be above average or below average and you shed 10. Let's say you shed 10 hairs a day. Some of the hairs in that 50 strands are getting shed. And if you're wearing the extensions for 2 or 3 months, you're right. You're losing some of the hairs that weight is holding from. So if you just loosen a bead or whatever it is and slide it up and recrimp, you're not on 50 hairs anymore because some of those hairs have shed, but you're grabbing onto them. So some of those hairs have shed and they've fallen out. They're just kind of like falling off to the side, like little waterfall pieces. And then when you take the extension out properly, you've got a lot more shedding at the time of the removal. And people say, oh my God, look at all the hair I'm losing. I'm losing hair. It must be the extensions. No, the extensions held that extra hair in for a couple of months. And then in between the extensions, your hair was able to shed and fall to the ground. But because we're holding them in, that's also extra weight on the fewer hairs holding in. So that's why you've got to listen to your stylist and get them out at the proper time. If you shed a lot, you probably shouldn't go more than 4 to 6 weeks with extensions in. If you don't shed much, you might be able to go the 2 or 3 or 4 months wearing extensions. It really depends on how thick, how coarse, how strong the roots of your hair is and how many hairs each extension is attached to. There's a lot to think about. And so I wanted to go further with the shedding because hair extensions themselves shed a little bit, some companies and brands more than others, and then clients shed some more than others. And there's no rule. We've got to kind of gauge it as it goes. Listen to your stylist.
Yeah. So and then the last thing I'll say about shedding is, like, for example, I just did a new client last Thursday, the Thursday before. So this is week 2. I just did the follow-up phone call with her, and I'm going to have her come in 2 more weeks. So her first visit is only in 4 weeks. Now, we may or may not do anything on that visit, but she's my first time client. It's the first, I have to learn her hair and I have to see how she's handling it. So I'm not pushing her to the regular 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to have her stop in on 4 weeks. And some people are like, that's way too much coming back and forth. And I have too many clients and I'm too busy. No. This is over $1,000 service. Yeah, I'm going to inconvenience her and myself. And we're going to get together sooner. And then we'll get together later and later and later, depending on what we decide to do.